I was born at Brooklyn Hospital, raised in Crown Heights by my two parents who were public employees, a caseworker and a social worker in a middle class, working class neighborhood in the midst of the crack cocaine epidemic in the 80s into the early 90s. I'm thankful for them, thankful for their love, support, and prayers throughout the years, throughout my journey into adulthood and my journey as a public servant. Growing up in that Crown Heights neighborhood, first member of Congress I was ever aware of was the Honorable Shirley Chisholm. And I eventually was able to be elected to represent many neighborhoods in Brooklyn that she formerly represented. And so it's with particular reverence for her that it was communicated to me earlier today that this actually is Shirley Chisholm's birthday, 98 years ago. I stand on the shoulders of people like Shirley Chisholm and so many others as we work to advance the ball for everyday Americans and get stuff done. Because that's what Democrats do. That's what our record says. Each and every day, House Democrats committed to fighting hard for working families, middle-class folks, those who aspire to be part of the middle class, young people, seniors, immigrants, veterans, the poor, the sick, the afflicted, the least, the lost, and the left behind. House Democrats fight for the people. That's our story, that's our legacy, that's our values, that's our commitment as we move forward. Get stuff done. Make life better for everyday Americans. We look forward to finding opportunities to partner with the other side of the aisle and work with them whenever possible, but we will also push back against extremism whenever necessary. We love this country. We love our democracy. We love the Congress and the House of Representatives, the institution designed to be the closest to the people. And we're going to fight hard each and every day we have this honor to serve in Congress to deliver. I now yield to my good friend, an amazing colleague, the incoming House Democratic Whip from the Commonwealth of the great state of Massachusetts, Catherine Clark.
Thank you, Hakeem. Good afternoon. I am so honored to be here with our leader-elect Jeffries and caucus chair Pete Aguilar. It is truly humbling to be the next whip for the 118th Congress and to get to do it with such an incredible team. And as Hakeem referenced, we as a team and as a caucus reflect the diversity and the strength of the American people. And that is where we are able to come together around shared values and reflect back to American families that they are the priority, they are who we will bring to the leadership table with us. Their stories, their challenges, their victories, and solutions for what they are facing. And I want to join Hakeem in sending our condolences and our love to Don McKeecham's family. He will be sorely missed in our caucus, a absolute tireless advocate for environmental justice and justice in everywhere in this country. And I'd also like to thank our incredible, iconic speaker, Nancy Pelosi, and leader Steny Hoyer for their service to this caucus, to the American people, and for their continued friendship and guidance. And our message today to the American people is very simple. House Democrats are ready to work for you. And in the last 2 years, under the leadership of President Biden, we were able to beat back a pandemic, get vaccines in arms, get schools reopened, bring back our small businesses. Then we passed the Climate Action Bill that was the largest in the history of our country. We saved the childcare sector. We created 10 million jobs. We passed the first gun reform bill in 3 decades. We lowered healthcare costs for seniors, and we defended women's rights and refused to let them become second-class citizens. And together, that's how we were able to defy political gravity and have this historically close margin in the House. And the Republican agenda appears to be to continue to divide us, to get power through division by turning neighbor on neighbor. But that is not what this caucus is here to do. It is not what the American people want. American people want solutions. It is not just Democratic families that are struggling to afford childcare and health care. It is not just Democratic families who are struggling to afford housing. It is not just Democratic women who want freedom to make their own decisions about their bodies. And it is not just Democratic families who want clean air to breathe and clean water to drink. So we are going to come together as a caucus. Our door is open for any member from across the aisle who wants to get to work for the American people. And if they want to divide, if they want to obstruct, if they want to have political theater instead of finding those solutions the American people want, then we will be here to oppose. But today is a day of transition and hope and a renewal of the shared values of our caucus. And I am so pleased for the first time to be able to turn the mic over to our caucus chair, Pete Aguilar.
Thank you so much, Madam Whip. Do I wait until next year to start that? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it now. Thank you so much to my good friends, Catherine and Hakeem. And you guys know that when we say those terms, we don't always mean it. But it's absolutely true. These are good partners, good friends, and I look forward to working with them in the years to come. Everything that Leader Jeffries and Whip Clark stand for is exactly what the Democratic caucus has been advocating and will continue to protect: individual freedoms, health care. Those are going to be the things that we continue to support and that we continue to push back on the other side as they attempt to erode the agenda that we have accomplished over the last few years. It's not lost on me what my election means for my community, for the Latino community. Being a kid from San Bernardino, having an opportunity to help guide this caucus is a great responsibility, and I don't take it lightly. What we're fighting against is this MAGA extremism, and we heard loud and clear this election from the American public that they want us to work to get things done for them. They want us to reduce the costs that they have, and they want us to stamp out extremism in every form. And so that's going to be our mandate. Unfortunately, there's folks who, on the other side of the aisle, who go to white nationalist conferences and come from the most far-right corners of the country. And we're going to have to continue to push back against those ideas as well. And every time that the other side pushes these theories, these dangerous theories, we're going to have to hold them accountable to the American public. As the Republicans turn to extreme partisanship and the circus of trying to elect a leader, what you've seen here is this transition. The energy in that room was amazing. For a group that is going to be in a very thin minority, the energy of our caucus was handshakes, high fives, and hugs as we transition. That's the legacy of Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer. And that's what's going to be important moving forward. While Kevin McCarthy is auctioning off real estate and square footage for every vote he can, we're united together. And we're in this together for the American public. And we never lose sight of who we are and where we come from. And that's what our mission and mandate is. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Catherine. We'll be able to take just a handful of questions, but some questions. Allie?
Can you talk about, because you guys have referenced the accountability, the extremism, and then you've also said you want to get stuff done. So how do you think about doing that? Do you think about working with Kevin McCarthy? Have you spoken to him at all? What might this look like in this period of divided government?
Well, our commitment is always to extend the hand of partnership whenever and wherever possible in order to get things done for everyday Americans. That's been our track record under the extraordinary leadership of President Biden, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, Democrats in the House and the Senate. We just have completed one of the most productive Congresses in American history. We passed the American Rescue Plan, shots in arms, money in pockets, kids back in school, saved the economy from a great recession, if not worse. Passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to create millions of good paying jobs spread out all across America. We were able to do that with some help from Senate Republicans, and we welcomed that bipartisan cooperation. We passed gun safety legislation for the first time in 30 years that will save lives. And that was also done in a bipartisan way in the Senate. Of course, we passed the CHIPS and Science Act to bring domestic manufacturing jobs back home to the United States of America, and we were able to find bipartisan common ground to get that done as well. And then we passed the historic Inflation Reduction Act. Unfortunately, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle chose not to work with us, but we got it done anyway. The largest investment in combating the climate crisis in American history, lower energy costs, setting our planet on a sustainable trajectory forward, strengthening the Affordable Care Act, lower health care costs, driving down the high price of life-saving prescription drugs for millions of Americans. That's the Democratic record. And we seek to find common ground whenever and wherever possible, and we hope that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, as they temporarily inherit the majority in the next Congress, are willing to proceed with that same spirit of cooperation, fortitude, and mission-centered focus to get things done for everyday Americans. That will continue to be the Democratic approach on behalf of everyday Americans.
Mr. Jeffries.
Yes, thank you.
First row.
Two questions, Mr. Congrevia. There's a lot of palace intrigue around here, of course. Not getting too much into this, but I'm curious. I just want to make sure. Mr. McCarthy has said he has not asked for Democratic votes for his position as he hopes to be Speaker. But I just want to confirm with you all. Are you talking to your caucus to say we are not going to support him in case he needs those votes? Have you considered perhaps getting in the game of offering or suggesting someone else? And then the other question is, what is your response to his pledge to say he will remove some of your members from their committees?
The House Democratic Caucus remains unified and focused in our efforts to fight for lower costs, for better paying jobs, for safer communities, to put people over politics. Those are our values that will drive us forward. Republicans are going to have to work out whatever mess and chaos is going on the other side of the aisle. That's not for us to get involved in at this point in time.
Mr. Jeffries. Mr. Jeffries.
Going back to this side, second row. You.
Colonel Jeffries, Basil Drummond, Next Star. One of the things that you just brought up was working across the aisle in order to make things work at the end of the day. But as we've seen in especially this past year. It's not just a problem when it comes to working with Republicans. Sometimes you've had Democrats within your caucus, they don't agree with some of the other Democrats when you're also looking at, say, in the Senate as well. One of the things that we heard earlier today was Congressman Jayapal said one of the key factors is making sure members can all agree with what leadership wants to do. Will you be able to guarantee that going forward when you do have legislation where moderate Democrats are not agreeing with what progressive Democrats want to do?
I want to make sure that Catherine and Pete also respond to this question because we all share the same approach. Everybody matters. Progressives, New Dems, Blue Dogs, whether you're from the north, the south, the east, the west, the heartland of America, whether you're in the center left, more progressive parts of our caucus, everybody matters. That's what makes the House Democratic Caucus the most authentic representatives of the American people. Sometimes we can have noisy conversations, but as we showed time and time again on issue after issue after issue, at the end of the day, we always come together, find the highest common denominator, and get big things done for everyday Americans.
Yeah, I would say look at our track record. Just look what we did in the 117th and look at that body of work, that coming together with a narrow majority over and over again. These are huge pieces of legislation that we have passed, and it is starting in the next few months, those cost savings, those projects are going to start to come to fruition. And what that means to the American people is always what binds us together, because our caucus is about these shared values. That is where we build the unity while we use our entire diversity. We don't do what the other side does. We don't shy away and say there will be discipline, there will be punishments for not towing the line. We listen to people because we understand that their districts, those are the voices of the people of this country. And that when we are listening to our members and drawing on for every corner of our caucus, we come up with a product that works for Americans. And that's our goal here.
This is the Democratic Caucus is a beautiful mosaic of the country. But these two leaders next to me can speak to every member and every corner of the caucus and have a conversation. But the House Democratic focus is always grounded on how do we help more people? How do we protect what we've passed in legislation? It's never perfect, but how do we protect that and how do we help more people? So when that's your core ethos of I just want to help more folks, it's a pretty easy conversation, to talk with each of them individually about what's ahead, about a piece of legislation, about a controversial amendment, because that's who we are. Our default is going to be how do we help more people in our communities? And so those conversations aren't hard, but with leaders like this, it's going to make it easier because they have the credibility and the relationships to go to every corner of the caucus and to talk about what's important to the American public.
Last question.
Jeffrey,
Okay.
thank you. Back in the mid-'90s, I remember there was an article in Roll Call when Tom Dassel had become the Democratic leader that he had a Byrd problem because all of a sudden Robert Byrd would always step in and intervene in issues. You still have Speaker Pelosi in the institution. You still have Majority Leader Hoyer in the institution. How do you work, and how does the caucus and the new leadership team work against them being helicopter parents, so to speak?
What an incredible blessing to be able to continue to rely on the life experiences, the wisdom, the leadership instincts, the skills, the talent, and ability of Speaker Pelosi, Leader Hoyer, and Jim Clyburn. It's a blessing that we embrace. We stand on their shoulders and look forward to continuing to get things done for everyday Americans. Thank you.
Jeffries.